Washington. I mean, what more is there to say at this point? This is one of the best teams in the country. It's time for Locked On Huskies.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into a post-game edition of Locked On Huskies. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That's Lars Hanson. If we sound a little bit, more tired than we normally do, it's because we were up till 2 a.m. just watching Washington absolutely throttle Cal 59-32. Thank you for joining us here on Locked On Huskies and for making this your first watch or first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockdowncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Lars, we're here, man. This has been a really interesting last 24 hours. We're going to get into it all right here. What is your biggest takeaway from this 59-32? Just like I said, just thrashing of Cal. And you can use the predictions that you did get right, like we both did, for anyone who listened to our Friday show.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say those for a sec, just for a second, to get back to your original question of just my initial thoughts on the game. See, it's kind of one of those things where you looked at that matchup between Cal and you go back the last 4 or 5 years, and it's like, wow, this game has actually been a one-score contest basically every time out. For whatever reason, whatever year, the past 4 or 5 years, it's always been bizarrely close. The telecast even mentioned last year was 14-14 going into the fourth quarter last year.
Yep.
With basically this exact same offense. I mean, yes, Dylan Johnson wasn't here, but Will Nixon was. I don't know. I mean, I believe Rome and at least somebody else played in that game. It wasn't like
they did. That's correct.
It wasn't like the Montana game where you had literally all your starting receivers out, and the same with the Michigan game in 2021, where it's like, okay, like you're literally missing your entire first line of receivers. Okay, I kind of get that. But everything was the same. And it was just – We've said this a bunch before, and we're going to repeat ourselves going forward because this team is just different this year. And Kalen DeBoer hit on it in the post game where these guys all came back to win a national championship. Rome literally had no other business coming back other than to win a national championship. His play is showing
they're
that
on track to do it too. Like this team, we're going to get to it as we move forward here. But this team is legit, man. Like they moved up to number 7 in the AP poll. We're going to have a broader discussion about that in the next segment. But the first thing that I really want to talk about, and something that I wrote about after the game on Inside the Huskies, is they dominated in every aspect of this game. Before Michael Penix touched the football, they were up 14-0. And shout out to the team for doing that, because that's what had my Michael Penix under 400 yards prediction hit. Is because he didn't touch the ball until there were 5 minutes and 46 seconds left on the clock in the first quarter. Because the first drive, Edifani Lefosio, 45-yard pick six. Then immediately after that, Rome Odunze, 83-yard punt return. And it was what? But the thing that gets me about that is, there are teams where you've seen like, oh, let's talk about USC. USC won 42-28 at Arizona State, and they look like a good team. They did, but they don't look like a great team. They don't look like a complete team. That defense, there's still a lot of questions. Their special teams, like, yeah, Zachariah Branch is really good, but just what else is there to say besides this team is unbelievable in every aspect of the game?
Yeah, I mean. Again, we could always nitpick a few things, but everything hit. I mean, the run game, you get another 140-yard performance. Again, we said it. You're going to combine guys, right? That's what this offense does. But there's just so many weapons. I mean, people were asking me in my mentions on Twitter, is Jack Westover playing? And I'm like, all four tight ends also have a catch. I mean, like, at some point, like, I understand it's kind of hard to keep track because there's so many pieces on this offense. But even on defense, Cam Fab comes back, lays the lumber. Jabbar Muhammad, prediction come true.
Bang. Multiple interceptions, too. You got that one.
Like, there was everything. And I think that was kind of what we have been waiting to see, was the defense step up. And, yes, again, you said, step up. They allowed 32 points. Like, okay, well.
No, they didn't. They allowed. Yeah, they allowed 20 points and 297 yards. If you were counting the fourth quarter, which was basically Cal's still Cal starters against Washington's true freshmen and walk-ons. You didn't watch the game, and that's okay. That's okay. You didn't need to watch the game, but if there are people, and I've seen it on Twitter already, people saying, "Oh, they allowed 500 yards." No, they didn't. They allowed 297 yards because that's what it was through three quarters. And by the end of the third quarter, everybody was out. Everybody was out. That's it.
You want to know how bad it was? So Justin Wilcox in his post-game press conference was asked, it's always kind of hard in the blowouts to try and find the positives, but usually coaches do that, right? And Sam Jackson V had, got some opportunity in the fourth quarter, as you mentioned, against Washington's basically C team. And he was asked point blank, hey, is there anything you can take away from this? Sam looked like he had some kind of good decisions. And Wilcox literally completely basically dismissed it. He's like, look, you can't take anything from that. Yeah, it's like, great, good for him, but not really. Like, if you do it again, because he knew he was doing it against walk-ons and freshmen. Like,
right.
It's a little bit different if you're beating Jabbar Muhammad, and you're making an actual comeback like Michigan State did last year, right? Because that was a little more legit because that was against a mixture of the second and first team defense.
And just to make like this even crazier, we have yet to mention that Julius Buelow, who was in a walking boot, Kalen DeBoer said there's a chance he plays against Arizona this week, which makes me just kind of leads me to believe that he just sprained his ankle and the boot is more precautionary than anything. Starting left guard, he missed the game, and Jalen McMillan also missed this game, which we didn't realize until about an hour before kickoff when he just didn't come out suited up, and it was that's just how complete this team is. Michael Penix just said, Jalen Polk, Rome Odunze, yeah, I got you. 2 touchdowns to each of them. Rome had a third on the punt return too. That's just how complete this team is. And even as the depth, it's starting to get a little scary. If you kind of think about up front, if Buelow doesn't come back anytime soon, even though, from DeBoer's comments leads me to believe, I don't know if he's going to play in this Arizona game, but I have a feeling that he's going to be back against Oregon. But that's just kind of what it's no matter what's going on, this team is consistent. And I won't use the full tweet, but Adam Kramer had a great tweet. Just Washington just does a great job just beating the life out of teams. He said it slightly differently. Go check out that tweet. It was great. But that's just what this team has done. And it's unbelievable to watch. It truly is.
And it's not like, the thing that you touched on going back to Jalen Polk, it's not like there's a couple that, Penix is hitting dime, but they're also, that catch in the end zone where he basically pinned it to his head and he's basically holding on to it for the life of him. That's the easiest one to drop. It's like these guys are so locked in on Locked On Huskies that,
nice.
Where they're not letting there's no margin for error. They know, look, we need to keep the throttle down. And I think that's also what was good to see against Cal was Washington did not let off the foot. Yes, they missed some opportunities. I know Ryan Grubb's going to say they definitely have some points on the board, and
they scored 45 points by halftime,
which again is crazy. But
this is ridiculous.
But it's like the over/under for the game was 57. Washington had 52 points on their own.
Yep, that's I'm out of words to describe this offense, and it. And what makes it even crazier, and it's part of what I wrote in my post-game story on Inside the Huskies, is they didn't even reach their season average in yards, but it didn't matter. And people are going to look at Michael Penix's 304 yards and 4 touchdowns and just say, oh, he was fine. No, he was out of this world good. He just didn't need to do anything else. Like, every single week, it feels like if he really wants to, he could throw for 600 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, and that's the touchdown to Rome when he threw him out of the break. So I thought initially when watching that play, the 35-yarder in the end of the second quarter for context here, I thought there was kind of a curl route where you're kind of going in and he was expected to peel off. That wasn't the route Rome was supposed to run, and yet it looked so natural because Penix is just that guy.
The arm talent that he displays is just unreal. And I put out a tweet about it during the game. I just said that the best quarterback in the country right now is Michael Penix Jr., and it's not particularly close. And I saw that it's got some bookmarks, and I'm assuming they're from either USC or Oregon fans just waiting for their opportunity. And it doesn't look like it's coming anytime soon with not only what Mike is able to do, but what this receiving core does week in and week out. This offense is just absolutely unguardable. And these guys are gonna be looking for jobs on Sunday real soon. And one place that I don't think they'll need, but one place I think other listeners might need is LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you have to do is add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. I mean, there's so much that can be said for adding the right team member to what you want to do. It's just like adding Jalen Polk to an offense that already has Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan. That's just how talented this team is. And that's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1, delivering quality quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Now we said it in the opening segment, and this is just kind of surreal to think about because there was a little bit of debate on Twitter, and I couldn't figure out who was actually correct. But we'll just say this: it's been almost 20 years since the Huskies have received a #1 vote in the AP poll, and they got one this week. And I have a feeling that this won't be the last one that they receive either.
No, I think I don't shout out to the real one, whoever voted for him. I don't know who
haven't looked at the complete breakdown yet. I don't know if it's out.
But right, I do say that it's kind of always a nice caveat to the AP Top 25. At least you get to see where the people are putting them. But right. I think it's kind of we talked about this, right? Kirk Herbstreit said you can. He hasn't won. There's a few other people who said you can certainly make a case for them. I think again, it's almost like Georgia, where Georgia has the easiest schedule, yada yada yada. But the point of what I'm getting at is it's so early where they haven't truly played them. Yes, you played Cal. Yes, you played Michigan State. But it's like it's like weeks 6, 7, Oregon. When you start to get into the meat of your season and face a little bit better teams, that's when you kind of know, okay, is this team top 5 or is it top 3? It's kind of like That's where you're really going to start to see the separation. I mean, the Oregon, Ohio State, Notre Dame game was kind of a good example of that, where 17-14. Hey, these teams truly haven't been tested. What does it look like when they actually face a really, really good team?
So, if you had a vote in the AP poll, where would you rank this team right now?
Probably 3.
Okay, that's where I was going to go as well.
3 or 2. I would put Michigan slightly above and.
Georgia, yeah, that's where I would have them because I'm not super sold on Texas or Florida State. No. Ohio State was they won, but and Notre Dame's good. We talked about this last night, and then Penn State. I think they're really talented too, but just what Washington's offense does to teams, it's the best in the nation by a pretty significant margin in terms of what they're able to do. And I know that it's really going to be on display when Oregon comes to town in a couple of weeks. And of course, as we get closer to that game, we're gonna really blow it out for that game because especially with both teams being on a bye, I'm sure that we're gonna get our buddy Spencer McLaughlin on here, and we're gonna have some crossovers and a whole lot of fun going on. But when we get there, but that's when we're really gonna just see what this offense is made of. And I think that if they are able to beat Oregon and maybe even do it significantly by a couple of scores, that this team won't be ranked lower than 3 for the foreseeable future.
Exactly. And that's really all, because again, if you're at 3, you're in the playoff. So I think as long as you continue to win out, and I think even the ironic part is the team that you didn't mention, USC. So that
who fell in the polls this week.
Right. So I think, who is the one loss that I have for Washington in our preseason picks. That's kind of the one game. Okay. Because if you beat Oregon, you beat Utah, and beat Oregon State, obviously, Washington State, that you can afford to lose to USC, knowing you're going to face them in the Pac-12 championship. And then if you win the Pac-12 championship, you're guaranteed in the playoffs because there's no way a one loss between USC or Washington is not getting in the playoff at that point.
So I feel like the conversation has changed a little bit, and there's a lot of season left to play. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself when I say this, but the conversation at this point with at the level this team is operating right now has changed from, can this team get into the playoff to, can this team get to the Rose Bowl because, as like the number 1 or number 2 seed at this point? Because it's insane. They've put up 40 plus points in every game and have just beat the brakes off of teams. And yeah, you can say something with the strength of schedule, but does it really matter? Because good teams, and this is one thing that I've harped on this show, and no disrespect to the GOAT, Chris Peterson, but this is not a Chris Peterson team. Chris Peterson teams, even when they were ranked as high as they were, they would play down to the level of competition so often. This team does not do that. That is one of the reasons this team is so special, is that mindset that I pull up the quote on my phone, but it'll take forever to find it, of when, as Jalen McMillan talking about Michael Penix when he pulls on the ski mask, of just that killer mindset. That's what this team is. Real quickly too, college football season is here and it's in full swing with everything that's going on with these Huskies. And this season, Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff Live. Each Friday, Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications, conference rivalry games, and go in depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel, so you can find it right here on Locked On Huskies. You won't want to miss it. But I mean, is any of what I'm saying wrong? Just to kind of wrap that up there.
No, it's not at all. I mean, that we talked about it going into the Cal game where they'd always played down, and this team, it's just that, kind of going back to what I said in the first time, when their mindset's different. They're so locked in, they're so focused that there's this team. You can match them, right? I think there's certain teams that'll certainly at times in a game this season, later on down the year, match them in terms of energy, and it could be a touchdown game, 10-point game, sort of thing. I can see Oregon, 17. And, late second quarter, late third quarter, sort of thing, getting close. But Washington just seems like a fourth quarter team where no matter how many punches you throw, they've always got 2 more back. And so no matter what, when you have Michael Penix in this offense, anything truly is possible.
No, I like that a lot. And that's something where it's not just that, it's the defense has showed up. And it was something where we and I think that's the biggest difference from last year. Yeah, the offense is ascended. They're operating on cloud 7, according to Ryan Grubb. But it's something where we saw it early on in the year last year, like against Kent State and against Michigan State, and where the defense was like, oh, there's a crack here, there's a little chink in the armor there. Where the defense isn't perfect. This is not the 2016 Huskies. This is not any of those era of Husky defenses, but it's good enough. And they showed something when we were talking as we were leaving the game last night, when you said everything just seems to be falling into place because Michael Penix throws an interception last night. Really ill-advised throw by him. Makes just the only mistake he made last night. What happens on the very next play? Jabbar Muhammad takes it right back. Pick. That's something that wouldn't happen last year. Last year, that's oh man, that turns into a touchdown, and it's still a couple of scores in the lead here, but things are getting a little bit dicey. That's not happening with this defense so far, and they haven't really been tested yet, and we'll see what happens when I think this week against Arizona. We'll talk about it way more as we go through the week. This week against Arizona is going to be a pretty interesting test for that, with Tyrone McMillan, with Jacob Cowlings. They have some talented pieces on that team, but it's not it seems a lot better than it was last year.
I've told people this a few times, and I don't know if I've said it on the show, but I think I told you as we were walking down on the field, where this is repayment for 2021. Last year was 2022 was repayment for 2020, right? Because you kind of get there, you have a couple of losses, but you're promising, you're headed in the right direction. This year, this team is motivated like I've never seen a team before. There's a lot of dudes on this team that were robbed in 21. That it's hey, last year was cool, last year was great, but this team is built different, and we deserve different.
I couldn't agree more. And now, before we get into just a little bit more about who should be the Heisman favorite, it's time to take a second here to talk about our friends over at Athletic Brewing, because now time for your game changer of the week, which is brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company, much like Michael Penix, who should be the Heisman favorite and is just, as I said, operating on a different plane of existence from us mere mortals. Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. They brew over 50 styles of craft, non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, golden, sours, and more. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning, and they beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. One of the best parts about them is there are no hangovers ever. They're the fastest-growing non-alcoholic brewery in the U.S., so it's time for you to get on board. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or you can buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. And, so as we kind of start to wrap up this show, as we move into our third and final segment, Michael Penix is the Heisman favorite. And as I said earlier, he is operating on a different plane of existence. He is transcended, and he's not going to get picked ahead of Caleb Williams in the NFL draft. We know this. He's probably not going to get picked ahead of Drake May either. But that doesn't mean that he's not the best quarterback in the country, just with everything it is that he's done so far this season.
So when you said that he is the favorite, the graphic says he needs to be the favorite. Just to clarify, do you know on FanDuel now after last night?
Have the lines moved since I wrote this down?
Michael Penix. I know I wasn't ignoring the ad or anything. I was looking at the FanDuel ads right here on my phone. 2023 Heisman Trophy winner odds currently, right? So I'm looking at my phone. Michael Penix Jr. is at the top of the list at plus 380. Caleb Williams is at plus 420. Ooh. Quinn Ewers plus 500. Bo Nix plus 1,000. So it's Michael Penix and Caleb Williams, and that's basically it. I mean, yeah, the other guys are kind of there, but Michael Penix Jr. is now the betting favorite on FanDuel. So to your point, yeah, the people have spoken, and the people
they have.
Above have listened.
This is great. Washington has never had a Heisman winner. That's a point we've harped on this show before. And I really don't think that there's anyone more deserving of the award just in all of college football right now than Michael Penix. With the injuries he's suffered, with the trajectory his career has taken, this dude has just earned everything that he's worked for. And I really don't think there's a better story in all of college football right now than just kind of the resurgence over the last 2 years of Michael Penix.
No, there really hasn't. I mean, it's kind of cool because when he came here, and I was thinking about this, Dylan Morris had the locker room, right? It would have been easy for Dylan Morris to win the job, win the locker room over, and all that. I think there's a part of Dylan that after spring ball, and this is not a knock on Dylan Morris, I want to make this very clear, but I think there was something about when they were competing, when they were watching each other in practice, Dylan just knew this guy at this point in time can execute the offense better than I can. And he gives us the better chance to win. So I want to help him become a better leader. I think that's why Michael Penix, because last night, again, he went out of his way to credit Dylan Morris and his leadership and how he has helped him in his time at Washington. I think Dylan Morris he didn't give him the locker room, but I think he kind of brought Penix to the locker room. And Penix naturally, again, everybody loves Penix. So it's not that Penix couldn't do it on his own, but I think Dylan was kind of that because I think that's why he keeps mentioning it. That's why I want to mention it, is because that can't go unsold, because Penix, without question, once he stepped on campus, it was clear he and this offense are a match made in heaven.
Yes.
And he's not just a system quarterback. I want to make that clear, because even at Indiana, under different coordinators, he still had success. He just didn't have an offensive line in front of him, and he certainly did not have these receivers outside. So I think this is just the kind of perfect fit. Great kid, great player. I mean, he's everything you want. And no disrespect to Caleb Williams, but almost everything Caleb isn't. Like Michael Penix is never going to wear, Blanco U on nail polish on his thing. He, at the very least, he might have like an undershirt under the jersey, under this, that he takes off after everything and comes to the press conference with. But sure. I don't even think he would do that. But
I don't think that's just like in his personality. And
no,
it's And so, like, aside of like off the field of just who he is and everything that we as people who cover the team and get to talk to him once or twice a week sometimes get to see in him, there's also just this element of I just remember on the second touchdown he threw to Jalen Polk, and then the touchdown to Rome Odunze, that the second one that where he threw him open. I just remember in the press box, it's just audibly going, no way. Just because the throws that he's making are out of this world good. Like there's something to be said for arm talent, and he did this throughout last season. Obviously, it was capped off by the throw against Oregon to Josh Davis, which is just still one of the most amazing throws that I've ever seen. But then this week, excuse me, not just this week, this year, every single week, it's no way. It's what? I'm sorry for just giving these stupid, just kind of sound effect reactions here, but that's what it's like watching him week in and week out. And if you're somebody who maybe just casually watches West Coast football, which is just still a huge issue, and that's one of the reasons that I'm so grateful for this Big Ten move, because people are going to be forced to have to watch these teams. It's if you're just kind of casually watching just, oh yeah, oh, he has a lot of yards. Oh, that's cool. Oh, his receivers are really good, right? That's what's going on here. No, you watch Michael Penix, and you can almost like count every single throw that he makes every single day, and it's no way. How does he do this? It's just truly mind-boggling to watch him throw the football sometimes.
Yeah, I mean the number of immaculate or great throws that he's made, even just this season, compared to the number of bad decisions, right?
Right.
There's probably three. There's probably three bad decisions he's made. One against Cal, one against Michigan State that resulted in a touchdown. But like, yeah, so there's a caveat there. And then I think he had one probably at some point against Boise and Tulsa.
The pick against Tulsa doesn't even really count as a bad decision.
Okay, I knew that was probably what I was thinking of, but I'm saying I couldn't even remember what game it happened in.
No, you're right, but like even because that play can be nitpicked with the face mask and everything else that went on there, but it's that's just I keep coming back to the same point, but that's really all there is to say about this. Like, and you look at like my guy Tom Fornelli, who just keeps saying Washington is a wagon. Michael Penix is the one who is driving this wagon that is just unstoppable week in and week out. And that's when we look around the Pac-12. Arizona's defense is not very good. Oregon's defense, who they play after that, is also not very good. Like, I really hope there are Oregon fans in the comments like, oh, did you see what they do to Colorado? I don't care what they did to Colorado, because Colorado's offensive line, like, it looked like you and I were out there playing tackle pretty much. That's what was going on there. This Husky offense is as legit as it gets. And it's all thanks to Michael Penix.
And it starts off wrong with the offensive line. Again, another no sack. Again, Cal's defense not that great. But again, I mean, to be fair, Tulsa Boise State got a sack. But again, that was because, again, there was Jalen McMillan ran the wrong route. So it's like the offensive line does its part that allows Michael Penix to cook. That allows – it's good. I remember talking with – this is a somewhat related tangent here. But when Ryan Grubb came from Fresno State, Jake Haener had all that success. But Ryan Grubb was like, yeah, we just didn't have the offensive line. Like, I'll just be completely honest. We just didn't have a good offensive line. Everything came together at Washington. Perfect play caller, perfect quarterback. Your offensive line's already there. Your receivers are there. Your tight ends are there. You just need a guy pulling the strings.
And it's like it's so crazy when like Mateo Mele, a sixth-year senior, goes down. And of course, everybody knows where I'm going with this, but it still needs to be said. There was a play last night where you pointed out Parker Brailsford to me, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna just zero in on him on this rep. And I just found myself just having to pick my jaw up off the floor, because that's a redshirt freshman who weighs 280, 285 pounds, maybe, that they leave one-on-one against a defensive tackle, and he just stands him up. Like that just shows not only what Scott Huff is able to do in talent evaluation and development and all that, but just how talented Parker Brailsford is, and to have him anchoring this offensive line even after Mele goes down. Speaking
of the Arizona week, you know what's crazy? So if Washington hadn't offered Parker Brailsford, because they didn't slow play him, but it was kind of like, there's a few other guys that they were kind of working with.
Right.
You know what school he was going to go to if it wasn't Washington? Yep.
Yep.
So shout out to Scott Huff.
And then like it's so as we wrap up here, the other guy that I think does need to be mentioned that did play a significant amount yesterday, Landon Hatchett, because the depth along this offensive line, it knows no bounds. We're down on the sidelines, we're watching the offensive line warm up, and you just lean over to me, man, Landon is huge. It's like, yeah, not its size, power, just everything that you want on an offensive lineman. He is that as an 18-year-old true freshman.
That is a weapon. That is a weapon.
Yes.
I leaned over to Jake Locker, who was standing right next to us behind in the end zone on the sideline. I was like, what are you feeding these guys in Ferndale? Landon's 18, and he looks like he's at least
he was bigger than Jake.
Yeah. And Jake just smiled, and he's like, yeah, we got him good. I'm like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you really did. So shout out to Janet and Bill and the entire Hatchet family for delivering Washington two absolutely fantastic offensive linemen.
And Lars, shout out to you for being here on Locked On Huskies as you are every single day. I know all the everydayers out there appreciate it. And all you everydayers out there, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in as you do in your name every single day. And, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, please be sure you do, whether it's wherever you're getting this, wherever you're listening to our voices right now, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. There's so many places where you can listen to this podcast. And we just appreciate that you choose us here on Locked On Huskies, and we will talk to you tomorrow.